Welcome to another episode of the Digital Masterclass series, part of the City of Glen Eira's Digital Enablement Program. Today's topic is choosing the right social media platform for your business. Today, we'll be taking a look at the wide and diverse world of social media platforms and usage in Australia, what you need to do to choose your own platform, and then we'll be going through some of the most popular social media platforms here in Australia, which are Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So first of all, there is an enormous array of social media platforms available for businesses and individuals around the world. This graph is an image of the world's most popular social media platforms in 2020. The leader is, of course, Facebook, followed closely by YouTube and Instagram. Then following these, you have more regionally specific social media platforms. Qzone and Weibo are both two hugely popular social media platforms in the Asian market, particularly in China. You also have some more obscure ones there as you go further down the list as well, like VK, which is very popular in Russia. So there are about 75 different social media platforms currently available around the world, with more being created every day. The advice of a social media specialist is that you don't need to be on all of these platforms. You just need to identify the platform where your audience is and where they're going to listen to you. So we're narrowing down what we're looking at. Here is a list of the most popular social media platforms in Australia. And you can see here that it is a little bit different to the graph that I showed you before. Once again, the leader is Facebook, followed closely by YouTube. And then we change a little bit. We go to Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat, WordPress, LinkedIn, Twitter, Tumblr, and Tinder. Now, obviously, not all of these are suitable for all businesses. Once again, something like Tumblr is an image-based platform. It's not necessarily a space where you want to sell things. It's more to do with art and sharing of aesthetics online. But for the right business, it is possible to establish yourself there. Something like Facebook is hugely popular both amongst Australians to connect with one another and businesses because it speaks to a very wide audience and it has advertising and engagement functions that appeal to a very wide range of businesses. And then everything in between, you can see, it's a mix. Some are better suited to e-commerce, some are better suited to corporate. It really depends on the needs of your business. So choosing the right social media platform is not unlike owning a pet, in that before you buy your pet, you need to have a think about what you can commit to taking care of consistently and over a long period of time. So before you even start conceptualizing where you might want to be online, have a serious think about the amount of time that you can commit to taking care of your platform. That usually means about these 4 things, which is how much you need time to create unique channel-specific content. That is content that is designed for the needs of the channel. So YouTube would be video, Facebook would be shorter video with subtitles, Instagram would be, of course, image-based, and so on. Post regularly. The frequency depends on the platform, but for something like Instagram, you might be doing a post 3 times a week and a series of stories once or twice a week. You need to keep your information up to date on the site as well. That means keeping all your relevant links up, your address, your phone number, your opening hours, all of those kinds of things. And you also need to be able to have time to maintain strong community management practices. So you can see there I've added a little statistic. that 40% of consumers expect a brand to respond on social media within 1 hour of reaching out, and then 79% expect a response in the first 24 hours. So you need to be pretty agile on these platforms. You need to be checking them every day, if not every couple of hours. So the next thing you need to consider, once you've identified how much time you can commit to your social media, is choosing who is it you want to be talking to. And now I'll preface this by saying, just broadly speaking, in conclusion to the last slide, for most businesses, 1 to 2 social media accounts is probably the most that a small business is going to be able to maintain. A larger business that has capacity to hire a social media specialist might be able to spread themselves further, but basically, unless you plan to consistently take care of your channel and post on there, it's going to detract rather than add to your brand. Now, moving on. So thinking about who you want to talk to. Now, different social media platforms attract very different demographics. So in Australia, one of the most popular in social media breakouts of 2020 was TikTok. And whilst it is sort of the flavour of the month, the largest group of Australian TikTok users are aged between 10 and 13, followed by 14 to 17-year-olds. So whilst this platform might be very popular and get a lot of likes and engagement, the groups that are on there don't really have the capacity to purchase products or engage long-term as customers of a business. And ethically speaking, it's not really suitable to be marketing to them. Now, we'll move on to some of the more commonly used marketing platforms. So the largest group of Australian Instagram users are aged between 25 and 34. And then the next one that is perhaps the most famous is there are over 1.65 million Australian Facebook users aged between 55 and 64, and 1.25 million users over the age of 65. So if you're looking for older Australians, Facebook is the place to be. If you're looking for, Gen Z and Gen X, Instagram is probably the place to be. And and it really goes down the scale. So understanding where your audience is a really important part of choosing where to put your business online. Now, the next step is thinking about the purpose. Why do you want to be on social media? There are a wide range of reasons why you might want to use a platform, and platforms tend to do multiple things at the same time. So broadly speaking, all social media platforms enable you to provide a degree of brand awareness. But then you get more specific. So it's good to sit down and think about maybe what are the 3 main goals that you want to achieve from having your social presence. That might be, I want to grow my audience. In that case, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all really great places to grow a digital audience. I want to provide customer service and support. In that case, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are useful, although YouTube is a little different in that it's not really so much a customer asks a question and you provide an answer in real time as you provide a tutorial or information about a service or a product. Something for faster engagement where the customer can literally ask you a question like, does this cake have nuts in it? Or what are your opening hours over Christmas? That kind of thing. WhatsApp would be great for that. Twitter would be great for that. Facebook and Instagram would also be good for that. You want to engage with your community, as in your industry. LinkedIn is a fantastic place to be doing that and be building up your industry reputation. And if you're in a business-to-business circumstances, there's a great place to choose that. Facebook can also be quite valuable, as can Instagram, if you want to develop a very distinctive brand narrative and identity. So these are just a few examples of all of the things that you can get out of having a social media presence. You just need to sit down and think carefully about what the main things you want out of social media are going to be. So now we're just going to look broadly at some of the 4 most popular social platforms in Australia and what their audience are, what their needs are, and how businesses can benefit from them. So the first one we're going to look at is Facebook. Now, theoretically, the core purpose of Facebook is social networking. However, in practice now, Facebook has really evolved to a point where it really exists for advertising purposes, paid advertising specifically. That's how Facebook earns its money. So it's unsurprising that that is the main focus of this social media platform now. So theoretically, it's for people to connect with one another, but it has shifted over time. So secondary purposes are as a news platform. It's quite commonly used for people seeking news and information, as an advertising platform, as a location sharing function, and it is also interlinked with Instagram. So if you choose to use Facebook as a primary social media platform, and I would recommend it for most businesses. If you're going to start with a social presence, Facebook is the place to go. You sort of get a 2-for-1 in that Facebook owns Instagram, and the 2 accounts can be interlinked. So you can share content to a degree across both platforms, and you can engage with the same audience in the same way. So there's sort of a 2-for-1 that you can get from there. Now, Facebook's audience. So 60% of Australians have a Facebook account, and it has a huge engagement. Around 50% log in daily. The largest user group is aged between 25 to 34. But as I said before, the most active people on Facebook are actually the older Australian generation. And this is where you're going to find older Australians if you want to engage with them and sell to them and, have them become customers. The industries that get the most engagement from Facebook, that is the most likes, shares, and comments, are fashion, automotive, and e-commerce. And these, if you think about them thematically, these are all trend-driven industries. They're all industries where people who follow them and are interested in fashion or automotive or, do quite a lot of shopping, they want to know what the latest thing is. They want to look at pictures. They want to see updates. And that's why these perform very well here. Fast-moving consumer goods, that is, supermarket products like you might say toothpaste, cereal, so on, travel, and not-for-profit also rank very strongly in that they get the most shares. And the reason for this is probably for FMCG, a lot of the big brands put a lot of time and money into creating entertaining videos, creating jokes, widely shareable and relatable content. Travel and non-profit are also very highly shareable topics to engage with. So non-profit, sharing and non-profit related content is part of, people like to do this as a form of virtue signaling, and travel is also an extremely popular one just from, just as an engagement and a point of community interest. The other thing that Facebook is fantastic for is check-ins. This is a really powerful word of mouth recommendation tool for hospitality and other services like a gym, a salon, a nail spa, that kind of thing. They get a really high level of exposure. So over 200 views per check-in. Now, just to be clear, a check-in is basically where a customer goes to your shop and then logs onto their Facebook account and says, getting my nails done at Glen Eira nail shop, and they'll tag your business if the business has a Facebook account. And what happens is the name of your business, a link to your business's page, and the location of your business on a map will all be published onto that person's profile and shared with all of their friends. So it means that theoretically, every time a customer comes in, if they chose to do a check-in for your business, everybody in their network, over 200 people per check-in on average, would be looking at that, seeing the location of your business, potentially even clicking on your account to look through your business. So it's a really powerful tool, especially if you have a brick and mortar store. Now, in terms of content, Facebook places a very strong emphasis on image-based content, particularly video. So the video content performs by far the most strongly on Facebook. But best practice is whatever you post, whether you're posting your business hours for the new year or a post about your latest services or something, should always be accompanied by an image, because of the way that people scroll through Facebook on their phone, which is quite quickly. They'll only pause for maybe a few seconds to look at an image, and it really is the image and the video content that makes a user stop on Facebook to have a look at what is going on. And so images always need to be included in whatever you create on Facebook. I would say daily posting is required on Facebook as a best practice. Now, this can be a sliding scale depending on the needs of your business, the size of your audience, and what's going on in your industry and what is common in your industry. So, you could do daily posting. It's a way to stay in front of your users on a daily basis, ensure you get some degree of engagement, 5 days a week. By daily posting, I do mean 5 business days, not 7 days a week, unless your business, runs over the weekend. But yeah, you could probably get away with 3 to 4 posts as well. But it does require quite frequent posting and engagement. Now, this is a caveat to all of this, is that even though in theory, if you have good content that is engaging and meaningful to an audience, you should theoretically pick up new followers and get engagement and get interest. Facebook's algorithm is now designed in such a way that paid advertising is almost certainly necessary to grow your audience. So if you want to reach a new audience and get new customers by using Facebook, you need to engage a paid marketing professional to establish a Facebook advertising campaign for your business. I don't recommend doing this by yourself if you're unfamiliar with the platform and the needs of your business, because it can be a way to waste a lot of money very quickly. If it is done properly, you can get very good conversion, sales conversion, for very little money. Now, the next platform that we're going to be talking about is Instagram. So it is primarily an image sharing platform, and unlike Facebook, it is more or less, it stays true to this original purpose. Secondary purposes are as a social networking site, as an e-commerce platform, and for advertising. And as it said previously, it is interlinked with Facebook. So it means that you can link the 2 accounts and get a kind of 2-for-1 social media platform situation. So as I said previously, if you choose to establish a social media presence, Facebook and then Instagram, linking the 2 accounts, is probably the best approach for a small business, although it will vary depending on your needs. Now, 41.3% of Australians have an Instagram account, and that's a huge number, and they do engage with it on pretty much a daily basis. The largest user group is aged between 25 and 34. So this is Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X. So a younger group. These older Australians don't tend to be on here. It really is for that that sort of middle-aged group. The industries that do the best on Instagram are media publishers. That means like fashion magazines, that kind of thing. And that's because they have a lot of visual content to share, and they can share every day, if not multiple times a day. And basically on Instagram, the more active you are, both in your stories, which is a sort of ephemeral Snapchat-esque part of Instagram, where you share an image or a video or content that lasts for 24 hours, and in the main feed, which is where images are posted and remain permanently. When these the more frequently you're able to do this, post content in these places, the more Instagram's algorithm is going to favor your business. Other industries that perform very well on Instagram are fashion, beauty, automotive, and sporting goods. So similarly to Facebook, these industries are ones that are trend driven, that have influencer voices. Celebrities are often intertwined with a lot of these industries. And it's very much a trend-based platform. People follow brands on Instagram to follow trends, to observe emerging trends, to see how people use products, and also do product research if they're looking at purchasing something. So effective use of Instagram, it requires a combination of posting in the main feed of Instagram. So these are permanent images that stay in your Instagram feed and are visible to anyone at any time if they search your account and scroll through your image gallery. And so that needs to be done several times a week for a business if they want to be active. And it also requires a use of stories, which is, as I mentioned before, that ephemeral version of sharing images, videos, content. You usually do them in clumps. So usually 1 to 7 short pieces of content posted several times a week. Again, 3 is probably a good benchmark to aim for there. So it is quite involved, more so than Facebook. But if your industry is suited to this kind of content, then you can get incredible amounts of engagement off it. Another key thing to remember with Instagram now is that the platform has evolved to the point where you can use it as an e-commerce platform. So you can literally sell your products on Instagram through the images that you sell without having to have an e-commerce presence at all. So if it is right for your industry, so I'd say fashion and beauty specifically, also food, anything really aesthetically appealing, it can be a very powerful tool. Now, the third platform I'm going to be talking about is YouTube. Now, unlike the earlier 2 platforms that I was talking about, social networking is not a core purpose of YouTube. It is a video sharing platform primarily, and secondarily, it is audience subscription. So not networking, as an information resource, as a form of video advertising and also marketing. Now, 15 million, it gets around 15 million unique Australian visitors per month. So around 60% of Australians are looking on YouTube in any given month. But the thing is, unlike something like Facebook or Instagram, they don't have accounts, they're not engaging as identifiable users. They're probably not going to follow your brand. The reason that Australians love YouTube and engage with YouTube is really to use it as an information resource. People love video content as a way of learning how to do things, picking up skills, catching up on news occasionally, following people whose opinions they are interested in and who align with their values. So YouTube is a little bit different to the 2 that we've been talking about previously, in that it isn't really a social media space. It's not really somewhere, it's not really somewhere where you connect with users on a sort of a long-term basis in the same way that you might on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Now, the industries that benefit from video marketing are kind of counterintuitively industries that have a hard time explaining the concepts. They're not aesthetically appealing. It's very hard to demonstrate what they do or what they are with images or written content. So going to video is just a very an easy way of explaining what they do, helping people to understand things, solving common customer concerns and problems, and building a reputation. So industries that benefit from video marketing are software as a service industries, travel and hospitality, healthcare, education agencies, law, finance, and e-commerce. So an example of this might be an accountant. So not someone who has a lot of images to share on Instagram, or a lot of, unless they're particularly imaginative, exciting content or image or video content to share on Facebook, nothing that's like instantly likable, but they might have a customer base who every year, 10 to 15 customers ask about their tax return, ask about whether or not they can claim clothing on their tax return, something like that. So it's a question that gets asked again and again. It's not something that can be easily explained, but a video is a really powerful way to either create a graphic or have an expert talk the user through that. So it's really, it avoids double handling. It enables you to use YouTube as a resource really for an existing customer base. Occasionally it can be used to draw in new customers as well who are information seeking, but it's really about explaining complex concepts in a way that people find easy to digest. Now, if you wanted to use YouTube as establish yourself as a YouTube brand, you need to post original video content around once a week. Now, video marketing and establishing a video personality on YouTube is not really something that brands do. It's more something that influencers do. So individuals who have specific opinions or worldviews, the practice tends to be post a video once a week. I don't recommend this platform if you want to grow your audience or get new customers or get conversions. I would recommend this platform if you're a business that has to explain complex ideas and finds yourself explaining them over and over again. This can be a really useful resource, and it adds value to what you're giving your customers. Now, the last platform that I'm going to be talking about is LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is a professional networking and business-to-business social media platform. So it's not really for businesses that engage with the general public. It's really for businesses who engage with a specific industry or other businesses at a certain level. Secondary purposes, it's a very popular job-seeking platform. It's often used to display expertise or industry developments. It's a community engagement space where professionals from the same community can share knowledge or talk about events, current news, that kind of thing. It also has an advertising function. Now, 11 million Australians use LinkedIn, which is not as big as the other ones that I have been going through, but it is a significant number, and you get a very specific kind of audience. So you can see here the two graphs that I've put up. You can see who exactly is on LinkedIn. So the most common individual that is on LinkedIn, and unlike the other platforms, you can search very specifically and market very specifically to a person by their seniority rank and their industry. So middle management and senior staff at 3 million, those are the most common LinkedIn users. And then you can also see the company sizes that these people belong to. So whilst 11 million is not as significant as Facebook, it's really about quality, not quantity when it comes to social media. And if you are a business who needs to target a very specific individual in another business, this is the place to be doing that. And this is the place to be starting those conversations. Even engaging in cold calling is not where you just send a message introducing yourself, your services. It's not unusual on LinkedIn. Now, the core purpose of LinkedIn, like I said, professional networking, B2B social platform. So engagement on this site is a little bit different to the other sites. Daily use is not that common. LinkedIn users will look maybe once a week at their profile, depending on what stage of their job cycle that they're in and whether or not they're working on something specifically in the space. So to ensure that the people who follow your business see the content you you post, you need to post around 2 to 3 times per week. And that is written content that involves images, videos, articles, links, etc., to make sure your content is seen. Now, LinkedIn, unlike Facebook and Instagram, tends to be a longer form platform. So content that does better on here is content that is, extended opinions, articles, thought sharing. Images and videos are still important. They still ensure a higher degree of engagement, but really LinkedIn is where you share detailed, specific information and display your expertise. So that concludes today's webinar on the choosing the right social media platform for your business. I hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.